Hello, and welcome back to some more Umineko When They Cry, and to some futile resistance, I believe the chapter's called. The door to the parlour was not only locked, but blocked with a barricade made of sofas and the like. Because of that, Aunt Rosa seemed up to suspect that any suspicious person approaching would break in through the window. Sitting on a one-person sofa, her back to the door, she continued to hold onto her gun. I didn't know what was what anymore, and even though my body and mind were worn out, I played with Maria as she wanted. Maria had said it. Beatrice was testing us to see if we could solve the Epitaph of the gold, so we had to try and figure out this riddle. In the beginning, I was a little interested in trying to solve it, but I didn't even have a clue where to start on this weird text. I didn't doubt that there was some riddle hidden there, but I seriously doubted I'd be able to suddenly leap to an answer. In the middle part of the Epitaph, there were the lines going from the first to the 10th twilight, telling us the journey to the Golden Land. That's another thing. We're not seeing gouge your head and kill, gouge your chest and kill, gouge your stomach and kill, gouge your knee and kill. We haven't seen any of that. On the first twilight of the six chosen by the key of sacrifices, on the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the two who are close. It was obvious that this hinted at the first six murders that had already occurred in the chapel and Jessica and Cannon's murders. If this was being followed, we still had to be prepared for 5 more people to be killed. How many? Wait, how many are going to the chapel? It's George, Shannon, and Golda, and Genji staying behind. So only 3. Gouge your head and kill. On the 5th twilight, gouge your chest and kill. On the 6th twilight, gouge your stomach and kill. 7th twilight, gouge your knee and kill. 8th twilight, gouge the leg and kill. Dr. Nanjo and Kumasawa Ba-chan's corpses still haven't been found. However, if this follows the pattern and there are the sacrifices for the 4th and 5th twilights, they'll surely be found in a pitiful state, with their heads and chests gouged. So, can we expect that 3 more of us will be gouged in the stomach, knee, and leg and killed? Who will it be? I looked around the room, noticing that there were 3 people here, but how should I put it? My emotions seemed paralyzed. Strangely, I didn't feel frightened. I leaned against the sofa with the top part of my body, gazing up at the ceiling. Maria noticed. Apparently she felt I was slacking off in my riddle solving. She got mad at me for not taking this seriously enough.
Na, Maria. ベアトリーチェは確かこれを解いたらどうするって言ってたんだっけ?
The dead shall be revived. I'm sure the witch wrote in her letter that she'd give up on collecting interest or something abstract like that. I optimistically took that to mean she'd give up on killing the whole family. But was it really written with that meaning? For some reason, I couldn't convince myself that solving the riddle would really save me. I feel like maybe, even if we do solve it, we'll just be doing what the culprit wants, and it'll all be a wasted effort.
そんなことはない。この碑文が解けたら、ベアとの儀式はおしまいになる。だからもうそれ以上、誰も死ななくなる。
本当にか? そういうルールを奴が提示してるだけだろ。この謎を解けば、多分、じい様の隠し黄金のありかがわかるんだろう。奴はきっとそれを狙って。
狙わないよ。
なんでそう断言できるんだよ。
黄金は最初からベアとのものだもん。自分のものを狙ったりなんかしない。
じゃあどうしてベアとは俺たちにこんな大ヒントを授けてくれたんだ? というか、どうしてこんなゲームじみたことを仕掛けてきたんだ?
Good questions.
魔法 クが必要なの。
At least from the grandfather's perspective.
リスク。よく意味がわかんねえな。
例えばマラソン。
Hmm?
完走すれば誰でももらえるメダルと、一番になった人しかもらえないメダルって同じ価値だと思う？
思わねえぜ。つまりなんだよ。結局奴は遊んでるってことなのか？わざとこっちにチャンスを与えるようなことをして。
違う。それがね、魔法というものなの。どんな大きな魔法にも絶対にリスクや弱点があるの。ないといけないの。
Otherwise we'd be overrun with witches and magic.
魔法って言われるとピンとこねえが、ギャンブルだって考えれば少しは理解できるな。でかく失う覚悟がなきゃでかくは勝てない。そして勝ち目の薄いギャンブルであればあるほど配当はでかくなる。
その通りだよ。だからベアトは儀式のリスクをちゃんとみんなに説明したの。
Huh?
だからこの謎を解けばちゃんと儀式は中断される。だってそれを約束違反したらリスクにならない。
これを解けば奴は本当に約束を守るのか？
What should actually be like off the island and they can't reach it in time?
花は枯れるのにどうして美しいの？造花は見分けがつかないほど精巧でもどうして美しくないの？
Yeah, I disagree with that.
人間は死を賭すから奇跡が起こせる。不死の人間がいたとしてその人物に何の奇跡も起こせる道理はない。私たちも人生も魔女も儀式も、私たちはリスクを負わなければ何も成し遂げられないの。
謎が解けたらどうするんだ？ピンポーンって鳴らして挙手して回答を魔女に伝えて答え合わせをするのか？
Yes?
それは知らない。でも解けばきっと自動的に儀式は終わる。
マリアは詳しいな。そいつはみんなベアトリーチェに習ったのか？
So, if you don't bear a risk, nothing can be gained. Is that it? That definitely is the way of the world, but it's sort of in conflict with the chessboard thinking I like so much. At least when making moves in chess, players grope for the best move, not always and not necessarily anymore, always trying to avoid risk and hoping for an advantageous turn of events. They don't trust a chance, like in gambling. That's right, there's no room for gambling in an intellectual game. And yet, this person called Beatrice has created such an outrageous crime, or maybe a ceremony, while purposefully imposing conditions for her own loss and announcing them to us. In chess, you always play your best move, again, not necessarily. So, by putting yourself in your opponent's position, you can predict their next move. And I mean, especially when you're playing with timed variants, and you don't have the ability to really think out all of your moves in one go. However, we can't be sure that Beatrice's moves are always the best moves possible. I thought she was probably making us focus on the Epitaph to fool us in some way, speaking in riddles. Yeah, again, thinking with Minimax, basically it's the optimal, it gives you the optimal solution if your opponent plays optimally. However, it's if your opponent doesn't play optimally, it might not be the quickest way to win. So, maybe they would fall for Fool's Mate, but maybe going for Fool's Mate won't give you the best probability. I'm trying to describe it using words only. Yeah. Your opponent... Yeah, you could go for the best move possible, which improves your position slightly, or you could go for a slightly less move, and your opponent could then just give you like 3 pieces. But you might not necessarily be able to get it if you didn't choose that slightly worse move. Anyway. But according to Maria, that alone was impossible. She said this was a genuine risk that the witch had taken, and therefore proof that this was a formal ceremony for magic. I can't understand this witch called Beatrice. If she's committing this chain of murders with some goal in mind, why did she go to all the trouble of exposing the conditions for her defeat? Actually, can we get it in red text that the deaths will stop if they solve the riddle? No matter how I spin the chessboard around and think from my opponent's perspective, I can't understand why she'd give up if this riddle was solved. Isn't it almost as though Beatrice doesn't care whether she wins or loses? Of course, chessboard reasoning wouldn't work against an opponent like that. I don't understand. What is Beatrice after that's making her carry out this crime? If she wanted to massacre us all, she could have done it quietly without this whole crazy setup. There was no need for that kind-hearted advance notice, or this self-aware closed room stuff, or any of the rest. It's all overacting. I've got no clue what it means. Will I be unable to understand everything as long as I keep thinking of Beatrice as a greedy human culprit? If I don't accept her as a witch, will my chessboard thinking be stuck before I've even lined up the pieces? If she really is a witch, and everything Maria has said is true, then there's only one thing for us to do. The theory building in Discord and searching for culprits has all been pointless. We should have all gathered in the dining hall, combining our knowledge to solve the riddle. By combining the knowledge of that many people, we might have been able to grasp at least the thread of the answer. The greedy humans, each desiring to gain something over their opponents, were getting offered up as sacrifices one by one, without gathering their knowledge together. In the end, did the humans get what they deserved? They thought they were using their brains, but they were actually thinking only of their greedy selves. In the end, chessboard theory is a thinking technique where you project yourself on your opponent. So greedy people see their greedy selves inside their opponents. I looked lazily at Aunt Rosa. She was probably tired from being under all this tension the whole time. She couldn't sleep, but she kept staring vaguely at some point off in space. Aunt Rosa had announced that we couldn't trust anyone who hadn't been killed. Aunt Rosa's chessboard thinking saw herself inside her opponent. In other words, maybe Aunt Rosa was an isolated woman, unable to trust anyone and unable to let her guard down. Long ago, I think I heard a bit about it from my dad. Aunt Rosa was originally a very obedient child, but her age was too far separated from the other siblings, and they often made conflicting demands of her during their confrontations. Thanks to this, she'd undergone a lot of psychologically harsh experiences in her youth. Often, when she copied one of her siblings, another sibling would give her a hard time. True, Aunt Rosa had said many things today that could be taken as abusive. But that meant those words were once showered upon her, which is why they were engraved in her vocabulary. Many abusive words that she'd spoken were also words that she'd been showered with in the past. Now that I think about it, I've had the feeling that his style of speech sometimes has traces of Uncle Kraus or Aunt Eva in it. I'd understood it as them being similar because they were siblings, but maybe it wasn't just that. For the first time, I truly sympathised with Aunt Rosa, whom I had always assumed was just quiet and gentle. Then what about Maria? Maria's been making a certain claim for a while now. If we can solve the riddle for which it's displayed to us, the ceremony will be halted and will definitely be saved. I think she also said that Beatrice will never break a promise. But this is Maria we're talking about. She herself never breaks promises, and she has the most innocent heart. So she believes Beatrice also won't break her promises. She's able to believe that. But isn't that just an image of Beatrice in Maria's mind? There's no proof that the real Beatrice always keeps her promises, right? Thank you. That's just what I was looking for. Should be able to reach the Golden Land? And reaching the Golden Land rather than specifying that the killings will stop. Also that isn't in red. Although if you take the promise that to be a promise, which I'm not sure if that really counts as a promise.
さすれば儀式は終わる。それ以上誰も死にはせぬ。
お前みたいな怪道の極みがルールを遵守するってのかよ。
Well, you kind of have to rely on her following the red truth rule thing at least.
わらわが残忍で卑劣で下道であることを否定はせぬ。
Can I still take offense of that?
だが、
あ
わらわは魔女だ。魔法を使う。魔法を使うには守らねばならぬルールがある。
Yeah, so that is fairly common in most stories. In some like settings, magic is like the power of a word in a way. And so telling lies basically decreases the worth of your word, and so your magic becomes weaker. There's a lot of ones which have some kind of similar aspect to it. Breaking promises with the Fae, for example, brings about repercussions. And like spirits and stuff like that.
わらわは魔女だからこそ、それをないがしろにできぬのだ。
Kind of not exactly related, but yeah, so telling the truth, I was thinking, is fairly common trait with magic, pigtails and all. Because you need some way of... They need to have some restrictions, otherwise magic would just take over everything. And so to explain why magic isn't all over the place, it needs to be restricted. So telling the truth is one of the major ones. I've given some examples why, but often they will also try to skirt the truth. So one series that came to my mind there is a Wheel of Time, where the sometimes called witches, but the Aes Sedai literally cannot lie, because that's kind of inverted though. They took a pledge to not lie, rather than that being forced upon them in the first place. And even then, they very much try to mislead people. But yeah.
それだけは信じるがよい。
これだけめちゃくちゃやってきて、それでもルールだけは信じろってのかよ。
I mean, there's no point in not believing in the rules. It just doesn't give you any chance, really. Believing the rules... Yeah. Because basically, if the rules are true, believing the rules you follow them. Not believing the rules, you don't have any information to work with. If the rules aren't true, you believe the rules, well, you're kind of screwed. If you don't believe in the rules, that doesn't change anything, you're still screwed. So you might as well.
わらわはたぶらかしはする。もちろん人も騙す。人間と変わらぬ。
But I do not lie.
だが、
Well,
約束として口にしたことを保護にしたことは一度もない。人間はどうか約束を必ず守るのか？
約束を守ろうなんてキャッチフレーズがある以上、ちゃんと履行されてるかどうかは疑わしいな。
わらわから見れば人間の方がよっぽど利己的で下道な存在よ。人間の約束ほど疑わしいものはない。わらわも時に人間と契約するが、くだらない願い一つ叶えるのにどれほど厳重に取り決めをするか想像もつくまい。少しでも隙があると連中はすぐに叶える願いの数を100に増やせとか、小さな豆粒に変身してみろとか言い出す。
親父によく言われたぜ。契約書ほど怖えもんはねえって。よく読まずにハンコを押すやつは骨の髄までしゃぶられて当然だって言ってたぜ。悪徳で荒稼ぎしてやがったんだな。
察しろ。人は生まれながらに詐欺を知りはせぬ。どこかで被った。だから覚えた。押し付け合わずにはいられぬ人の世の罪か。はて、どこの魔女に聞いたやら。まあいい。そなたが思っているほどわらわも無慈悲ではないぞ。
嘘をつけ。
oh,
これだけの大勢を、しかもまた
I was forced to by contract.
こんな残酷な方法で殺しておいて何が無慈悲ではないだ。約束は守るだと。
I've quoted Yes Minister quite a bit, but I was like, with the civil servants, one of them going like, Savary, do you think I'll become a moral vacuum? Oh yes, Bernard, if you work hard enough. Yeah, I just had to share that, but yeah.
いい加減なことを言うな。俺はお前を認めない。断じてそれを譲らないことだけがお前への抵抗だと俺は信じてる。
なるほど。永遠の苛波であるのはわらわに対しても同じであるというわけか。
Yeah, so if kind of continue thinking of how Rosa sees a witch and then Maria sees a witch, how does Battler see the witch? Isn't it a reflection of himself?
かもしれぬな。1000年は長い。魔女の強さは魔力より我慢強さで決まるのかもしれんな。なるほど。ベルン教の恐ろしさもうなずける。
何をわけのわかんねえ話をブツブツ言ってやがる。さっさと永遠の苛波とやらを続けろよ。
Let's throw you back to this eternity of torture. Wow.
俺は1000年でも1万年でも付き合う覚悟だぜ。
I doubt it.
よいよい。少しは戦う気力も戻ってきたようだな。そうでなければつまらない。ほら、対戦ゲームでもよくあるだろう。乱入したけど相手があまりに弱くて拍子抜けでわざと負けて最終ラウンドまで延長させて 最後に本気でフルボッコにすることとかってあるだろ
例えの意味がわかんねえよ。
う。ワインと同じよ。
Huh?
よく熟成させねば輝かぬ。お前はそれに耐えられるワイン。
Okay then.
わらわがじっくり熟成させてやる。そなたをわらわの優雅な時間を彩る最高の美酒に育て上げてやるぞ。だからこの程度で屈服などするな。わらわを引き続き否定してくれよ。何しろわらわはそなたが認めぬ限り儚き幻想に過ぎぬのだから。
Okay. Oh, right, because they're shattering the window to get inside. Oh, I was thinking, huh? We had the shadow, but it didn't show up on the screen.
教中お察しします。シャノンさん、鍵を頼みます。お亡くなりになられたとはいえ、奥様はレディーです。私には触れることができません。
はい。
Shannon nodded sharply, her expression filled with a sense of duty. George, Gordon and Shannon had broken a suitable window and were inside the chapel. Since they really hadn't wanted to break one, they'd searched for another way in just in case. But in the end, after proving once again there was nowhere they could slip in through, it only became more obvious that this chapel was a mysterious closed room. We've already discussed that one though. Inside the chapel, time had stopped ever since the last time they'd left it. Even George wasn't able to approach that gruesome Halloween party again. It was only natural. It reminded him again of the sadness of losing both parents at once. And Gordon, thinking of the possibility that those corpses might have changed in some horrible way now that half a day had passed, didn't want to let George get near them. Shannon followed Gordon's instructions and approached the party table. Normally, Shannon might have resented having another dirty job forced on her. But now, she could truly understand Gordon's mental state. Even though Gordon had prodigious skill, he'd gotten dragged into trouble, losing his job, and ending up left out on the streets before Natsui gave him a new life. Though it had been just a casual employment decision for Natsui, Gordon must have thought it a turning point in his fate. This round Gordon could see that he felt a special kind of loyalty to Natsui, so he probably didn't want to lose that feeling, even after her death. Now that half a day had passed, the bodies of Natsui and the rest had changed completely. Small bugs sniffing out the smell of death had started to gather. It really wasn't something you'd want to look at directly.
奥様、失礼いたします。
Because of her long experience as a servant, Shannon had an idea of which pocket Natsui kept the key to her room in. It would probably be this pocket. Her guess didn't fail her. Just by touching the outside of the pocket, she was immediately able to feel it.
ありました。奥様の部屋の鍵です。
Shannon held the key up high, showing the others that it had been found. As George and Gordon watched her, their eyes opened wide. Why? That wasn't the expression Shannon was expecting, so it startled her. Why? What's behind her? Oh. Golden butterflies. So Genji was able to stop one of them, but they still knew where to find them, I guess. After all, Shannon hadn't noticed. George and Gordo, watching from afar, noticed it first. After all, when Shannon held the key up high, A blizzard of gold leaf had seeped up from around the table. And on that note, I'll be ending it there for today. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know any feedback you have in the comments. And until next time, see ya.